So, good morning. My name is Reverend Dr. Ron Fox, and I'm welcoming you to the Center for Spiritual Living Space Coast Sunday service. This would be a great time, if you haven't, to turn your phones off or on manner mode, I guess. If you're a first-time guest and never been to a Center for Spiritual Living before, or somebody watching during the week, we believe there's one God, many paths to that God, and we're here to love, honor, and support you, no matter what your divine path is. And the Center for Spiritual Living Space Coast is a safe haven for people of all beliefs and lifestyles, whoever you are and wherever you find yourself on your journey of faith, you're welcome here. You know, I sometimes kid about the announcements that I know people come to church for the announcements, and I really do have a lot of them today. So I'm just going to apologize. First of all, today is Unexpected Income Day. Don't let me forget, Ed. So this is the third Sunday of the month, and I'll explain it later. Our book group continues Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements. And you really don't have to have read the book or even have it if you just want to come, and you can join in the conversation even if you don't know what you're talking about. I probably shouldn't have said that. You're good at that. Also, yesterday, we had our first meeting of the Socrates Circle, and it was really, really, really good. There were 5 of us there. We'd love some more, but we did one question. Well, I'm going to tell you about it in my message, but we actually spent an hour and 15 minutes on one question going around and around. So it's an opportunity to be in a safe environment and go deep on questions that the minister comes up with. I just do have a couple of other cool announcements. Save the date, October 14th. Eddie Watkins Jr. is going to be doing a concert here that we sponsor, and we stand to not only have a great concert, but we're doing it as a fundraiser for us. So Patrice and I are going to head it up here, and Randy Fillmore's wife is going to work with us. So, and again, I'm sorry for so many announcements. We did a dream group a couple of weeks ago. People really liked it. And when Mickey, a dream interpretation group, put it on Facebook, a lot of people said, I wish I knew that you were going to do it. So we are going to do it again. We don't have a date yet, but Mickey is a fabulous, fabulous teacher. Last week, they did a sound bath here, or maybe it was the week before. They had people doing Tibetan bowls and drums. And I've spoken to the people that did it. They're all members of Unity, and they're more than willing to do it for us. Remember, we had the plan to do that. They are willing to do it. And yeah, so we'll talk more about that. Also, Patrice, our practitioner, is doing a class this Wednesday. So you want to come up and talk about it?
Go this way. Well, I just didn't want
Go ahead.
to disrupt the whatever flow. Oh, well, good morning. On Wednesday, we have a class, intuitive movement. Really, that's what yoga is. Yoga means to unite, but when people hear the word yoga, they think you gotta have to stand on your head. That isn't it at all. In fact, if you can sit in a chair and wiggle your toes, you can do this class. If you want to lay on the ground and wiggle your shoulders, you can do this class. It is really more about allowing your body's wisdom and your intuition to speak to you. And we do that through uniting with our body, uniting with our breath, yoga. So it's at 10:30 to 11:45. Bring a mat if you want to be on the floor in this room, right? We'll move the chairs around. If you don't want to be on a mat on the floor, come and sit in a chair. If you'd rather stand, you could, but an hour and 45 or an hour and 15 minutes standing, you might not want to do that, but sitting in the chair, perfectly acceptable. Bring water, wear comfortable clothes. They don't have to be exercise clothes. Meditation, of course, is part of it. And I hope to see everybody there. Bring a friend.
Thank you.
Wednesday, this Wednesday, the 20th. 10:30.
Just to let you know, next week, Patrice is going to be doing the message and Edgar's going to be our practitioner or reader. So, oh, one of the other things we want, one of the spiritual practices, yeah, I know these are long, for Center for Spiritual Living is visioning. And visioning is a way of catching God's idea for something you're working on or a project. And Patrice had the idea, next board meeting, which is the first Sunday in August, we're going to do a visioning session. Everybody is invited, not just the board. So we'll keep reminding you about that. I want to just thank Ed back there. Mihai's not here. Jenna, Joe, Edgar, Becky for doing everything the other day with the move. We were out of the other room in less than an hour, and it took a little more here because of wires and things, but Edgar was unbelievable with us, so thank you. Center for Spiritual Living at the home office, they have a committee that's called the Hefferland Fund. And what they do, John Hefferland and his wife donated, I don't know how much, a large sum. And this committee meets several times a year, and centers can put in requests for computers, for whatever. And we did it years ago, and we haven't done it in a long time, but this go around, we did put in a request for a bigger tripod for the camera and for a wireless mic for me. And I just found out they were approved. So sometime in the next 2 weeks, we'll be getting a check, and then we can go the wireless to let me move around a little more, like out the door. What did I forget? Oh, wait. Okay. Guys, if you're going to forget, there's like levels of forgetting. I just hit the bottom level of never ever do this. I forgot my wife was going to make an announcement.
Well, he's saving the best for the last, I guess. So I just wanted to briefly and quickly just talk about the decorating committee and just the space. I mean, thank you so much, for the people who are here, who are on the committee, because if it wasn't for their I think their vision, their heart, their physical help, we wouldn't be here in this, this wonderful space. So, and then, also we were able to get a little bit more of donations coming in. So we have a balance of $298.84. So it's an ongoing project. So as we, get used to the space, and we can come up with some more ideas for it. The other thing I just wanted to remind you is that Stephanie is going to be coming this afternoon after the service. She's going to show us the shears so that we can, make our final selection on them. And Edgar said that he would help us put those rods up in the shears. So thank you again. And so that'll be the next thing, the shears. And also we pulled the words from the other room. That'll be the other thing that we do next. So just, no, that's home. That's repurposed. Yeah. So anyway, think of some more, as we get used to the feeling, like, okay, so what else could we do here? But we do have the spiritual words that we could stagger around the room. So just, put your imagineering minds, see what we can do.
Saturday lunch next Saturday.
Oh. So next week, next Saturday at noon, we're going to be meeting at Tuscany Grill. This is in Vieira. Please, I mean, you're all invited. So please come and just share in the social time. It'll be fun. Okay, I think that's it.
Is there a theme for the decorating? Is there a certain theme that you have in mind?
Yeah. Just, yeah, coming from your heart. We're not going to be coming from our heads, coming from our hearts, and just, what does this feel like? What do we really want to?
Is that we create a sacred space.
Yeah, just warmth and love and, yeah. Okay, so let's just take a couple of seconds here to go into that light of love. Going into that heart of gratitude, where gratitude opens up our hearts to the divine, to this infinite power that is all in all knowing, all powerful, and everywhere present. It is right here within each one of us. This infinite power that is right here within me. I'm knowing my oneness in infinite love, that it is who and what I am. I'm knowing this for each person who is here in the sanctuary, who is on this Zoom meeting. I'm knowing that this energy is right where each one of us is. There's no separation. And so in this realization, I'm knowing that this infinite love is filling the sanctuary, filling our hearts, so that it is expanding forth into our community, into the world, into the universe. There is no spot where God is not. It is ever present. This wonderful energy is right within Reverend Dr. Ron. And as he opens up to the divine, his message is felt. Not only heard, but it is felt. It opens up each of our awareness, so that we're not thinking about it, but we're being the message. We're being the light. I'm knowing that this light is expanding forth through Reverend Dr. Ron. That it is guiding and directing the words, the feelings. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for knowing that each one of us is one in the divine, one in this love. That it doesn't only remind us of who and what we are. We are spiritual beings experiencing this human form. But it reminds us of our power expanding. And so knowing this, I just give thanks. I let it be. And just know that it is done. And so it is.
Good morning, everybody. Title of my talk is Light in the Dark. My spiritual reading is Light in the Darkness. Danger can be real, but doubt, worry, fear, even happiness are thoughts, they're choices. Fear is a normal response to something like being diagnosed with a terminal disease, being literally in fear of your life. The danger is very real, but even here, fear is a choice and probably not the best one. Everyone faces difficulties in life. However, the worry-filled anticipation of possible setbacks pointlessly magnifies any dangerous possibility, and you will usually find what you're looking for. Faith is a belief with strong conviction, a firm belief in something for which there may be no tangible proof. Faith is complete trust, confidence, reliance, or devotion to that belief. Doubt, worry, and fear are all faith in something dark, and thoughts become things when dwelled upon. So putting your faith in light or darkness is a choice. Sometimes very easy to go dark and a lot harder to go light. So if you find yourself in darkness, know that you have simply lost your way. Remember that you live in the heart and mind of God. Not only is there nothing to fear in God, it's all light. The darkness is a result of wearing blinders, of putting your faith in false, dark beliefs. Remember also that challenges do not equal darkness. Challenges in life are how we grow, discover, and understand. Facing challenges is what makes life mysterious, exciting, and worthwhile. And now, Reverend Dr. Ron Fox.
So I'm just kind of like a guest here, you know, my wife does the announcements. He decided he's doing the talk, and so. Welcome, thank you. So the title of my talk is Finding the Light in the Darkness, but I got to talk about the dark. So, you know, since we've come back live in person, we've been doing what's called the hybrid service. And the technical aspects of doing the hybrid service are difficult. And we have 3 people doing it. Ed, who you just saw up here, Mihai, who's not here today, and my wife, Becky. 2 weeks ago, both Mihai and Ed were gone, and Becky did the whole technical aspect of the service. And so at the end of the service, I publicly thanked her and said what a great job she did. And she said, and I said, what? She said, wait till you hear what I didn't do. And what she didn't do was hit some button. So she didn't record the Sunday message. So I said to her, because we were talking about it with the group here, and I said, well, I'll just come in during the week and I'll record it and Becky could put it on MailChimp. And they all said, no, do the talk again. It was a really good talk. So for some of you, if it sounds familiar, it's 2 weeks ago. So again, the title is Finding the Light in the Darkness. And I want to begin with a quote. And the quote is, after every storm, there is a rainbow, no matter how long it takes to show up. And I told you guys last time I did this, that when you go into school of ministry, they tell you, you know, when you have a talk title in your mind, stuff's going to come to you from all over. And that quote that I just read to you, which I'll read again in a minute, came from a Dove candy wrapper. And I've been actually thinking about that and thinking how lucky you guys are to have me. I mean, I bring a certain uniqueness that you couldn't find anywhere else. I mean, so suppose I know you have a Catholic friend and you'd say, what does your minister read to prepare the message? You'd probably say the catechism or something, right? If you had a Protestant friend, they'd say the Bible. You know, somebody who's Jewish might say the Torah, or somebody else, the Quran. But tell me, how many people, if they said to you, how does your minister prepare his message? How many are going to say by reading candy wrappers? I mean, it really makes us unique. So I want to do the quote again because I do want to pull something serious from it. So the quote is, after every storm, there is a rainbow, no matter how long it takes to show up. And I just want to say that when I heard that and looked at it in a serious vein, one of the things I think is that you and I very often have the power to decide how long it's going to take for that rainbow to show up in our life. You know, life can be difficult. It's going to be difficult for all of us in some way, sometimes, somewhere, but we can learn tools to either erase or at least to ease the pain and put us on a path where we see the light again. You know, and we might even get to see that, and I know we've talked about this before, we might even get to see that the pain is really a blessing when we get to the other side of it and look back. You know, suffering touches every one of us, but clinging to thoughts of suffering just brings us more, just brings more suffering. And, you know, Viktor Frankl wrote about life in the camps. And one of the things he said, you know, I don't know that I remembered this, but he said that because of their ill health and frailness, epidemics would come through the camps. And he said, some people would succumb, but other people that saw some kind of higher meaning to what they were going through, they survived. And that's what Frankl believed, that all the suffering, I mean, there's a guy who lost his wife, his children, his everybody, and he still saw some higher meaning. And what happens is when we believe that whatever's going on in our life, even when it hurts, that there's a higher power, a higher meaning. When we believe that, then we don't feel powerless, we don't feel worthless, and we don't feel like victims. And that's, I think, what Nietzsche meant when he wrote, "He who has a why to live for can bear with almost any how." And I was thinking about it. I don't think I talked about this the last time, but when I was married to my first wife, and my mother was really sick. My mother had 2 major surgeries. And basically what the doctors told us was she's going to live for a long time, but she can't live at home by herself, and she can't live with you. More care than a layperson could give in a nursing home. While she was in the hospital, we had a daughter who was 4, and my wife and I adopted a little baby that was 3 days old. And they would let us bring the 4-year-old to see her, but they wouldn't let us bring the baby because they said there's a hospital, there's a lot of germs, you know, and we don't want the baby here. So when my mother went into the nursing home, every single day I was at work, my wife brought the baby, my mother. And 8 days, my mother just closed her eyes and went to sleep. And I really believe when we talk about a why, her why was she wanted to see her grandson, and she wanted to touch him and play with them. And after she got to do it for a week, being confined to a bed maybe didn't seem like the kind of life she wanted to live. And so she let go. That's, to me, kind of an example of what I was talking about. You know, no matter what happens to us, no matter how painful it is, even how unfair it is, it really doesn't matter as much as how we respond, to that. And so I read about a college professor who was teaching a class. And in the first class, she said, I want to get to know you better. So I want you all to write 2 short essays introducing yourself to me. And here are the 2 questions. The first one is, everything I've done has led me to where I find myself today. The second one was, it is only after many surprises and choices, detours and disappointments that I have arrived somewhere I could never have anticipated. And my guess is every one of us could write on that second question. How many of us are in a place where we thought we'd be when we were in college or high school or wherever, the army, whatever, lots of dips and disappointments and joys, and whatever. I said this the last time. My dad and I were really, really close. But if he somehow came out of the grave and looked and he said, "That's him, long hair. He's a minister for some weird thing, and he's got earrings," and he would be gone again. But anyway, so one of my favorite Buddhist teachers, readers, writers is Jack Kornfield. And in one of his books, he talks about that. I thought this was so science of mindness. He said that underneath every struggle that people go through is an unstoppable force. And I thought that's probably what we would call spirit, God, life, whatever. And he said that even in the most difficult situations where people felt they'd never be able to face up what was going on in their life, or they'd never be able to resolve it, he said, given enough time and courage, it unravels itself, and the people come to a new place of vigor and of wisdom and a new joy of life. So I wanted to give you two examples, and actually they both come from Rabbi Erwin Kula. But the first one, he talks about a congregant named Ruth, and Ruth had a 16-year-old son named Josh, and Josh was dying of cancer. And one day, Rabbi Kula and Ruth are by his bedside. In fact, Kula wrote that the kid's father couldn't bear to come anymore. And so Ruth and Kula are at the bedside, and I guess in frustration and anger, she turned to Rabbi Kula and she said, "Where is God now?" And just as she said that, Kula wrote, Josh woke up and he said, "Mommy, I'm going to die. I love you. You could never have been a better mother." And Kula said he and Ruth were speechless. Josh then closed his eyes and went back to sleep. Weeks later, at Josh's memorial service, Ruth got up and said that she was going to start a committee to build a new wing for the hospital. And Kula wrote, Ruth found God right where God is, in her broken heart. And he also said that the tragedy is going to lead to so much more life by her going out and doing that and putting another wing, raising enough money to put another wing on the hospital. The other example Kula gave was his own. So his wife is pregnant. They're out having dinner with friends, and she taps him and says, "It's time." So they're really close to the hospital. They walk to the hospital, and her name is Dana. Dana gives birth to a little girl named Talia. And Kula and his wife are ecstatic. She's perfect, like every father would say about their newborn. She's perfect. They love her, and they're in a state of gratitude and joy when Kula said he got a thought that knocked the wind out of him. And the thought was, the year before, Dana, his wife, had a miscarriage. And if she hadn't had the miscarriage, Talia wouldn't be here. And he said in that instance, he felt sad and he felt peaceful. And he said, I saw how the good and the bad can be knitted together. And he said he also really understood the Jewish practice of saying a blessing when something good or something bad happens. So, making peace with suffering helps our emotional growth, and it helps us really develop courage. And I was, this is kind of a little bit off, but I was thinking about when I prepared this, how, sometimes we say things and we just say them and it's like, yeah, and we don't think about the meaning. And I think a lot of what Ernest Holmes wrote is really profound. And yet, I think one of the simplest things he wrote is really, in some ways, for us in practice, the most profound, and that is change your thinking, change your life. When we change, when we put out into the universe, our outer life changes because our inner life rules. And he talked about that all the time. So Joseph Sharp is a chaplain. And in one of his books, he writes about he was at a meeting where the supervising chaplain was speaking to a group of intern chaplains. And she asked them a question. I'm not going to say a Cohen this time. She asked them a question. And the question was, how do you tell a 5-year-old girl how much God loves her when her mother just died on the operating table? The answer to the question is you don't. And she talks about what she wants the chaplains to do. But I thought it's not just them, it's any of us. If we're visiting somebody that's hurting, you listen. Probably the biggest thing. You listen and hopefully elicit feelings, and that really empowers the person and helps with spiritual growth. So he also, Sharp tells another story in there, and it's about a couple named Tom and Kate. And he said that, like, people were envious of their marriage. They had such a wonderful marriage and they were really close. And then Kate finds a lump, and Kate has a double mastectomy. And Tom saw her only by accident because she wouldn't let him. And what he realized, he knew that she felt incomplete and inadequate and no longer the woman that she had been. And one day she comes home from work, and Tom had come home early from work, and he had built a fire, and evidently he was known far and wide for his apple pies, and so he baked an apple pie, and they come together, and he tells her how much he misses her and how much he wants to hold her. And he said, I'm scared to have this conversation with you. Look at me, I'm shaking. And he said, please, just tell me what I need to do. And she said, to begin, I need to kiss my scars. And, the fact is that spiritual courage doesn't mean having a stiff upper lip. Stephen Levine wrote that, when you have a stiff upper lip, you can't kiss anybody. But spiritual courage is about being flexible and being gentle and being caring and having the courage to open up the heart that shows our vulnerability and trust. And so we were talking before that yesterday we did our first Socrates circle. And I'm not going to get this exact, but the question was, are you the kind of friend you would like to have as a friend? Is that pretty good? And we spent an hour and 15 minutes on it. But the reason I'm mentioning it now is that Sharp talked about courage and a heart that shows trust and vulnerability. And those were probably the two key words from yesterday on the importance of being in a relationship, having trust and being willing to open yourself up and to be vulnerable. And Sharp wrote, we are each called upon to become larger containers of life's full experience and to kiss our scars and the scars of those we love. And there's an example you've probably heard of before, but it's like the oyster that, in order to breathe, opens its shell and sometimes takes in some sand, and that sand forms some kind of secretion that hardens, and eventually there's a pearl. And not all oysters can do it, but for me, the point is there's no growth without pain. There's no pearl without pain. And so just 3 easy tips that we could do to deal with it. First of all, is know that everybody's going to get hit sometime or other. So when it happens, don't be thrown. The second thing is, the most used phrase in the Bible was, this too shall pass. So no, it's going to go away. And the third thing is, this is a spiritual community, ask people. There's 2 ministers, there's 4 practitioners, and there's other people here that have a life load of wisdom, and use them. So a closing thought, a lot of cultures have a version of the phoenix bird. And the phoenix bird, in short, is a bird that's vital and healthy, flies too close to the sun and dies. And the story symbolizes renewal and resurrection, because from the ashes, a new, vital, energetic bird is born. Okay. And we can do that. We have the power to do that, to even in our darkest time, to be able to rise from the ashes if we're willing to do the work. So I want to close with a quote from the Daily Dose of Inspiration. And it reads, "At the end of our life, what really matters is not what we bought, but what we built. Not what we got, but what we shared. Not our competence, but our character. And not our success, but our significance. Live a life that matters. Live a life of love." If the rest of us, the affirmation, joyful giving affirmation, is in the bulletin, we can repeat it together. I live in a consciousness of good, divine love, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. Hey, Jude, I thought all week I better not slip and call that a Cohen. But that's what he described it as. All right. Oh, thank you. Oh, gosh. I don't know what it is. Today's the 3rd Sunday of the month. And every 3rd Sunday of the month, we do unexpected income when the moron in front of you remembers to do it. So what we mean by unexpected income is, somebody takes you to a movie, buys you lunch or dinner, you get an unexpected refund from taxes or from insurance. And then what we do is invite people, if they've had that, to come up, tell us about how they earned or got the unexpected income, and then share some of it with us. So you want to come up? So Ed, I know, is waving at me.
Yes, I had a very large unexpected birthday present about a month ago. So sharing some of that.
Oh, thank you. Anybody else? Anybody? I can't see who's. Yeah, he meant if somebody gave him a car. Yeah. All right, well, I try to remember every second Sunday. I did last week to set the intention that unexpected income will come into your life. And so how about if we just take a moment and go within and just give thanks for that divine presence that Becky spoke about, that resides in each and every one of us. That divine presence that is here and that is available to each and every, to all of us, to go from the darkness to the light anytime we make the choice to go within, to touch that divine spot. I know I'm praying right now in my own life for some direction, and my prayer is, I know I have the answer within, and as I live a conscious life, it will come. And that's can be our prayer for this message. As we live a conscious life, as we turn to thoughts that are affirming and real, our life changes. Our life changes. No matter what the situation is, we can turn darkness into light. Every one of us is a spiritual powerhouse. And so knowing that, and knowing the truth of who each of us are, and knowing that in more wonders, I just give thanks. I release the word and let it be. And so it is. So we're going to do our closing song and our closing affirmation. So we can, Reverend Jenna said, stand to do the closing song.
And here we go. A beautiful song about being peace on earth.
No excuse not to sing. And let it begin with me. Peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. I told Becky I was going to raise her arm during it, and she had no idea what I was saying. It was like we were having a contest.
Yes, no, yes.
So if we're going to close by doing our closing affirmation, so just repeat after me. Something wonderful is happening to me right now.
Something wonderful is happening to me right now.
It is this thing called life.
It is this thing called life.
Life is in my mind.
Life is in my mind.
Life is in my body.
Life is in my body.
Life is in my affairs.
Life is in my affairs.
I receive it.
I receive it.
I share it.
I share it.
I am it.
I am it.
And I accept it
And I accept it
just the way that it is
just the way that it is
and just the way that it is not.
and just the way that it is not.
Thank you, life.
Thank you, life.
And so it is.
So it is.
I've been doing that for close to 20